Hey everybody, Scorpion here. So I've got more stuff to sort. This is still stuff that came from scrapping with Grandpa. So I'm gonna try to sort through this stuff, see what all's in it, and take y'all along for the ride. See y'all safe hands.
Rock bottle on the track, boy.
Alright, so what in the world? It's gonna be the first yellow board I've ever seen. It's gonna be something that's just painted on it there. So let's see. I'm really not even sure what this is right here. I would assume it's some type of IC chip. Yep, IC1. That's an IC chip. Interesting. So we've got IC chip here. This is 4 capacitors. They are, let's see what size. I think it's 820 farad. So pretty good size capacitors there. We've got a chip here, a chip here. Crystal oscillator here. That's a flat pack. We do have a few of these little boxes on here. And a couple wires. Most time at Yankees things, they just come right on off of there, but not always. Alright, so most of the time, these things right here are going to be brass. Sometimes you can find them in something else, but so I like to cut those off and keep those separate instead of leaving them on the boards. Gotta find out what this is. So. Alright, so I don't know what that is. I think that's a capacitor too, actually. Yeah, it's rolled up. So those are capacitors. I need to get a good look at this because this is actually gold on top. I can't read it. It does have the resistance symbol on there. There's 4 in there telling Loki something. I'll set that aside and check that out a little bit later. Crystal oscillator. IC chip. Flat pack. So all these are like IC chips, but you've got to have 6 legs or more, so that's 3 on each side. This one has, but these are only 4 total, 2 on each side. So you don't collect those as IC chips. This is all up in the way. Now, what to do with this big monster? Let's see. I'll have to do a little research. That's the first time I've run across a chip like this. So it's not an even number of legs on this. You got a few on this side and a bunch on this side, so really not sure. Looks like it did have a huge heat sink on it, because that's the paste. There. There's not really anything left on this board worth taking off unless you happen to see a couple tantalum capacitors, but I'm not really seeing any on there, so the rest of this is just weight. That sounds hollow. Let's see what this is. Doesn't sound too hollow anymore. I'll get you later, don't worry. Can't run too far. Yeah, it's not hollow. That's gonna be a capacitor too. Let's move on to the next one here. Alright, so it's going to be a small socket computer board. It's small socket because this hole, you cannot put a quarter in the hole, but it's a metal small socket. Somebody stole the chip off of there. Battery's still in it. Oh, let's see. Wow, this one's got about 5 of them. This is a pretty big one. And maybe in me, I'm still a crystal oscillator or 2. There's still 3 more, 4 more on there, something like that. Yeah, 4. I'm not gonna mess with any of the chips. That's your bigger value. So you can actually take these if you want, copper on them. They don't really want it. It kind of got me to the point though. I'm gonna make a bigger mess than, you know, you got the time for getting it off of there, and you got the the amount of time it's going to take you to clean up the mess that you make, because those are encapsulated in that ferrous material, probably to help protect everything around it. So I'm not going to mess with those. I'll go ahead and drop this in the computer board bucket for the metal all the way at the end. Let's see what this is. Lots and lots of chips. Heavy board. Might be because that piece of steel is back here. That's just another computer board. They don't always make these things easy to get a hold of. But they got plastic rivets that go all the way through to hold it down. And chips there is plastic, socket small, so it's a small plastic socket. That's how you separate your computer boards. Put your heat sink sits in here, fans probably on top, and they put those little plastic things through the board to help keep it in place. So if they're up where you can get a hold of them easier, it's not a big deal. But if they're like this one, scrap metal, then you have to get up underneath it to pop them loose. Because I don't leave all this junk on these boards. So that'll go over to the plastic small socket boards. Just stick it in the plastic. I'll separate them out later. So. This says Tandy automatic power controller. Thinking there'd be a date on there so I could see when it was made, and I don't see one. So. Stuff like this I normally keep, but I'm not going to keep this one. It's aluminum on the outside, makes me a little nervous. Something, I'm going to use the word shorts out, but that's not exactly the proper term. But if a wire winds up breaking loose and leaning up against this or something, then when you go to pick your box up, you're going to get the thrill of a lifetime. So I'm going to take this apart. That's supposed to be all that's holding them on there. There we go. It's just a cover. All that work to get a cover off. just going to be a switch in here. It's going to be a fuse, and the rest is just going to be electrical sockets. They might have a circuit board in there to help control the like lightning arrestor type thing to give it a little bit more protection. But I'm not expecting it to be anything too awful fancy in here. But we will see here in a minute. Those DVD drives that fell off the back a little bit ago. I got a stack of hard drives and DVD drives sitting over there I need to take apart. Looks like it's a shell over top of this piece. Front, back, and top, but the bottom is part of this piece. I think I need to make me a dirty aluminum box or something. Put some glue in my hand too so I can hold on to these things. Alright. So this is going to be steel. This is aluminum. These go to the scrap. Alright, so your power comes in here. This came from right there, from the cord. It goes into your switch, so the switch controls everything, because this had 3 wires coming off of it. So this is your neutral at the end. Your switch then runs through your fuse, and then from your fuse to the board, and your ground comes in, which grounds your aluminum, which is always the good thing. That helps keep that, getting shocked thing from happening. And it's a ground on the board here. Let's see if I can't pull some of these tabs off and get this board out. And like I said, this has got a little age on it. It's not like the ones we see nowadays. So if I was going to be honest, I'd probably tell you this power supply would probably work for another 20-30 years before it quit. But I don't like having it metal on the outside. There's your fuse. It's got some, they do have silver in them. Pretty sure this is going to be interesting is what it's going to be. showing anything for like a capacitor, which I mean really, I wouldn't think it's got one anyway. You've got your, I believe these are diodes controlling, yep. So it's 4 diodes. So the purpose of the diode, it controls the direction of electricity. So if lightning comes in or whatever, it'll burn the diode up before it lets it go through to everything else. Yeah, I figured that was a contactor. There's a nice roll of copper. I mean, this board's not worth anything anyway, so you might as well take the stuff off of it if you want. So here's the fuse. This is the next thing that's worth $1. And then this is your last thing that's worth $1. If you can hold it. There it goes. The rest of that just goes with the other boards to sell as weight. 50 cents a pound. That might be worth 10 cents. So let's see how much copper's on this. What do you say? I say copper. Yeah, it's the right color. Quite often they'll take aluminum wire and paint it like this. Most of the time if you see that color, it's aluminum, it's not copper. And there's the first round. Second round. Third round. And fourth. This can go in with motors or your scrap. That's a pretty decent amount of copper there. Again, there's differences between, you know, everybody and how they scrap stuff. A lot of times I'm after the value more so than the quick money. Part of being after the value is getting all that metal out of there that you can. Instead of quickly just cutting stuff off and rolling on. I do realize that that means I make less money, but I also realize that means you have a lot more stuff that makes it where it's supposed to go in the proper areas when it comes to the metal. See if that's aluminum or steel, and that would be steel. Alright, so this is what I just unscrewed those wires off of and took the nuts off of. Most of the time you can grab these and just rip them right out, and then you're good to go. So I'm going to see if I can't take the rest of this out of it, and I'll show you what's left, because I know this is going to take a little while to find the proper points to get them to release. So I'll be back with you. Alright, so I decided to bring y'all back at this point. Most everything's out of the box. The backs here just popped right off. I slid a screwdriver in, twisted, popped them off. This is not the best way to do stuff. As you can see, you know, a couple of these have actually come out from me doing that. They just, basically it pushes down and the little pins cut the sides of the wire, make contact, and that's how you get it. A lot of your new receptacles are kind of like that. Normally your small wire hookups are that way. You just clamp it on there, it cuts into the plastic and makes your connection for it. The new receptacles are like you stick the wire in the back and there's a clamp that holds it. Not the best way to wire stuff. Put it under a screw where it'll stay and it won't come off. Over time of just the house expanding and contracting, and the metal in here as you use them in your sockets, that wire will slowly work its way out the back. Then you have to, you're calling an electrician to fix it, or you're going in there fixing it yourself, wondering why you don't have power in that socket. So it's pretty heavy gauge wire. There's no markings on it. If I had to guess, this is solid too. It's either 14 or 12. It's pretty stiff and hard to bend. At least that's what she said. And pins are coming out with it. So I mean, some of them hold on pretty good, but time will make them release. All these pins are brass, so that's what I'm working while I'm taking those out, so I can pull these brass pins out. But this wire is definitely big enough to strip. As you can see, it just takes a little wiggling and it turns loose. So I don't wire stuff that way. If I was building this, I would definitely build it differently. There would be screws to put that wire under. I don't ever trust stuff like that. I'm gonna pop those out and I'll bring y'all back. Alright, so finished pulling those plugs out of there and pulling the pieces out of it. That is probably a combination of brass and white brass. Pretty good little amount there. So that goes with the brass, which I'll test all of it later. But you just grab them and they pull right out the back. Little fuse reset. I went ahead and broke that apart. And I don't know how well y'all be able to see contactor here. So your plug goes on here. This passes through the plastic inside. You got a contactor there, which looks like it's copper, and this side looks like it's got a little silver on it. Same way for the other contactor. Looks like it's copper there, and it's got some silver on top of the copper on the other side. I was going to do the switch. Normally they're the same way, but it wanted to be a pain, so I just grabbed the two pieces of brass in the back, pulled it right out. So that's a piece of brass, and then this piece I pulled out, and one of the contactors is right there with it. So again, it's copper with silver coating on that side. I'll just toss this in the trash. This little, basically relay, this I'll put with the motors at this point. This is a copper piece that ran around it with contact on the end, silver on there. This is another little metal piece that has nothing. And this is actually shredded anyway. So we ended up with this wire out of there, some more brass over here. And that's pretty much it. So I think I'm going to call this video a day because I don't want to keep y'all too late. And we'll catch y'all next time.